Okay, welcome to a brief and informal recording of how to play Overpowered. I'm going to walk you through the rules of the game, and then we're also going to play through a quick pamphlet adventure that was recommended to me on Discord. Let's get started. So, we're going to be using the Dice app for the Overpowered game. You can play with physical dice, but it's a lot easier to use the app. So, we're going to go to Technical Grimoire, we'll go to Games, we'll go to Overpowered, and we'll select the Dice app. The Dice app is flexible layout, meaning that we can sort of scooch it over to the side and only have it take up a little bit of space. All right. The adventure we're going to be playing through today is called Drain Temple of the Brackish Basin by Brian Stauffer. This looks like a beautiful little game. This is compatible with Mouse Ritter, but we're going to be running it with Overpowered because Overpowered is compatible with any tabletop adventure game that uses math, and Mouse Ritter uses math. So, I haven't read this before. We're going to be reading it together and playing through it live just to show you how quick and easy Overpowered can be. So, the first thing we're going to do is make sure everything is set up, and I'll walk you through the rules of the game. So, in Overpowered, you guide a brave Explorerbot through a dangerous scenario. You have a bunch of dice that are rolled and added to your power banks. The number that the dice show is how much power each die is worth, and you're going to spend that power to fuel and activate your devices. Our bot today is Unstable Arcturus, 19. He's got an ice grenade. He has a small frame which lets him sneak through past things. He can transform, alter his mass and shape. He can emit pheromones. He has little wheels. Ignore that this doesn't have wheels. He has wheels. He doesn't consider art to be a treasure, and he's not here to make friends. So we'll keep all of his tools and quirks in mind as we play through the game. The focus of the game is you gain more dice by accomplishing your goals. So for example, one of our goals is to scan handfuls of treasure. Every time we scan a handful of treasure, we get another 4-sided dice added to our power banks. Every time we scan a powerful item or magical item, we get a 20-sided die. If we scan a weak creature, we get a 6-sided die. If we scan a strong creature, we get a 12-sided die. Whenever we enter a new area, we gain an 8-sided die. And whenever we completely scan everything in an area, we get a 10-sided die. Some of these abilities you can spend your overpower. We'll cross that bridge if we need to. And we're going to start by reading through the adventure until the game sort of kicks into gear. So, Brynford is a small settlement on the shore of a saltwater pond known as the Brackish Basin. Its inhabitants have built their buildings from river stones, woven reeds, and mud under the protective umbrella of a small cascade of water that feeds the pond from the freshwater Golden Fork River. When a group of beavers built a dam upstream, however, the protective waterfall and pond dry out, along with Brynford's livelihood. However, as the citizens of Brynford try to negotiate with the beavers, they discover something else. An ancient stone door at the bottom of the drained pond. What could be inside, and does it hold the secret of the salt water? This looks like a charming little thing. It's laid out in this sort of pamphlet style. So we're going to be referencing the 2 pages and zooming in and out as we go. But looks like there's a couple of factions, a bestiary of creatures, powerful jellyfish, and some items. We're going to jump right into the first room. So, in a normal role-playing game, you would play through all of this. You would meet the village. You would talk to the people of Brynford. You might do some role-playing where you gather some supplies, and they talk to you about the problem they're having. Maybe you agree on some kind of reward, and then you venture into the dungeon. Overpowered kind of skips past all of that. I like to think of it as speed running a tabletop adventure. So we're just going to jump right into the very first part of the adventure and see how we do. All right, so Basin floor. Right off the bat, before we even read anything, I'm going to get an 8-sided dice because I entered a new area. All right. Basin floor, drained pond, only some stones, dried seaweed, and a trickle of water remains. At the base of the basin is a sealed stone door. On the lintel is carved, "Water seals our folly of pride." Relief carving on the door depicts two fish standing upon the bell of a jellyfish, with arms reaching out towards a floating crystal. Bowls carved into the door contain water from the draining pond. When no water touches the door, it swings inward. Okay. So these stairs lead downwards. Dried pond on the door. At the base of the basin is a sealed stone door. Maybe the base is here, or is the stone door number 1? Oh, one is outside. Okay, so 1 is where it starts in. That's open because the beavers drained the dam, and the door is open now. Right. Okay. 1 still counts as an area, though, so we still get that. Technically, I have scanned everything in the area because there was nothing to scan, but I don't think that counts. Especially because my bot doesn't consider art to be a treasure. Otherwise, maybe the relief carving would count as treasure, depending on how you interpret it. But we're just going to keep moving. So room 2, first I gain a d8 for entering a new area. Boop. That one rolled low. Okay. Water drips irregularly from the stone ceiling, and the last dregs of draining water cling to gray slate floors. Walls throughout the temple are decorated with aquamarine lining and embedded shells. A staircase leading to room 3 is flanked by 2 statues of fish holding tridents. One has broken and collapsed. Hallway to the east leads to room 6, the crypt. To the west is room 4, the temple. On the far wall is a relief mural of fish pointing tridents at a jellyfish bound by chains. 2 statues of fish holding tridents. Are the statues creatures? Guardian. No, I don't think the statues are alive. Alright. There's a staircase that leads down to 3. There's 1 to the 4 and 1 to the 6. Let's take a quick look at what is in each room, and we'll decide where we want to go. So a key part of Overpowered is that you are guiding your bot through this adventure. You're the operator. You know everything. You know every secret, you know every monster, you know all the stats and numbers. So a big part of the game is sort of planning your route through each adventure module. And we're going to do that as well. So the garden, we'll just do a brief overview. The garden has some leaf slugs, a large stone door, and it requires the mournful hero disc to open the door to the prison, which 3 leads here. So we want to get the mournful hero disc at some point. All right, the temple, clams snap shut, guardian, and it leads to the shelter. And then 6, there's a guardian, leads to Aura's tomb, which has a bunch of good loot in it. All right, let's go to 6. It looks like the mournful hero's disc is going to be in room 5. So let's take our time and explore this place. We'll go into 6 first. So we leave room 2, we head into room 6. I get a d8 for entering a new area. And let's see what room 6 has. A circular room lined with evenly spaced coffins on raised daises. Each tomb with a tomb effigy depicting an ambulatory fish wearing shell armor, holding a weapon and one end of a chain. On the floor is a mosaic of tiles depicting a jellyfish, tentacles splayed and bound with the other end of the chain. A guardian patrols the crypt in an endless circle. One chain leads through a small doorway to Or's tomb. Alright, so let's handle this guardian, first of all. Floor is a mosaic of tiles. So the guardian, we'll go look it up. Guardian has 6 HP, 12 strength, 10 dex, 12 will, 1 armor, deals 1d8 damage, and it wants to prevent the release of Dormu. Okay, cool. So, the way that Overpowered handles combat and rolling and interacting is we use our devices to overcome creatures and obstacles that hinder our adventure. So for example, this guardian, what we're going to do is we're going to look at his stats. 6 HP, 12 strength, 10 dex, 12 will, and we're going to pick one stat to overcome, and that's going to be influenced by our devices. So for example, 6 health. Do I have anything that might effectively deal with the health of a stone guardian? Actually, are they even stone? Do we know what the guardians are made of? Guardian patrols the crypt. Doesn't say, it leaves it kind of vague. I'm going to say, oh, the seaweed guardians. Okay. So they're made of like a cool seaweed thing. Oh, that's so neat. Okay. So the ice grenade could freeze the seaweed. That's not a bad idea, assuming they're still wet. I have a small frame, so I could sneak past, maybe skipping the will if I wanted to sneak. Because this mouse raider doesn't have perception, so I would probably just use will. Transform to evade their dexterity. I could do that. Induce some pheromones, maybe to manipulate the seaweed, or I could try to just speed my way through with wheels. I like the idea of freezing the seaweed. I think that's really thematic and cool. So to freeze the seaweed, it's going to overcome their armor, constitution, or magic defense. So armor's 1. We could use 1. That seems pretty easy though. Let's go with 6 HP. It's the second lowest number. So what we do is we take that 6 health and we treat the entire guardian as having a single stat of 6. And we need to spend enough power from our banks to overcome that 6. Right here we have a nice, so 7 or more. We have a nice little d8 that already is worth 7 power, so we spend that, and then we overcome the guardian. So there are no more threats in this room. We can scan the guardian. I'm going to say this counts as a weak enemy. We gain a 6-sided dice. Very nice. 5 is a good roll. And then we continue to explore the room. Let's see. One chain leads through a small doorway. I've got a small frame and I can transform, so I'm definitely sneaking through along that tiny doorway to Or's tomb. Tomb of the Fish Sir Ora. His likeness in the oxidized copper sarcophagus is recognizable as the fish hero from art throughout the temple. Oh, cool. On the wall above the sarcophagus is a mural of Ora throwing a glowing trident, trailing a chain at the menacing, looming jellyfish. The recessed floor contains ankle-deep water. Tomb effigy is holding an ornate trident and a stone chain. The sarcophagus lid hums audibly. There's a battery wired to the inside of the lid. It deals D10 damage when discharged. Okay. So before we open that lid, I gain an 8-sided die for entering the room. Nice, 8, perfect, that's the best roll. And then this thing's going to deal 10 damage, so we need to withstand and overcome that 10. Whenever a stat is a range, like if it was 2d6, you always use the maximum value. So if it was 2d6, I would treat it like a 12. But since it's a d10, 10 is the maximum value, so I need to spend 11 to overcome this. I'm going to spend my 8 and my 3 right here. So 11 power. Boom. I deactivated the battery. What tool did I use? I'm just going to say I used my wheels to absorb the electrical charge of this trap. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. So my bot hops on top of it, triggers the trap, the wheels absorb the damage with their bouncy rubber, and then I'm free to open the sarcophagus. Inside lies Sir Aura's bones, a set of colorful gilded shell armor, hero's shell plate, and a masterwork trident, the Loyal Trident. The trident is bound to Sir Aura, and it will return here if taken from the room without rebinding. Alright, so let's see. I bet these are items listed otherwhere. Sir Aura's bones, hero's shell plate, and a Loyal Trident. So, the Loyal Trident returns to its Oathkeeper when called. Spill blood on it while reading the engraving. Alright, I think that scanning that counts as a powerful item, for sure. The hero's shell plate reduces friction in water, can swim, move more easily. Outside of water, it is as cumbersome as heavy armor. Since this has like a obvious downside, I'm going to say this counts as 2 handfuls. Now, I got 1 handful, which gave me this dice. If I get another die, my power banks can only hold 4. So this dice is pushed up into Overpower. You'll see this go up to 5 because it takes the value of the die and adds it to my Overpower score. Yep, so now I have 5 Overpower. The Overpower counts as my high score. It's a way that I can compare my score to other players. Let's see. Are the bones a special deal? I don't think so. So the bones are not a magical item. I'll say they count as a handful of treasure. Why not? And again, when I gain a new 4-sided dice, that's going to push this little 1 up into Overpower, giving me 6 Overpower. Boop. All right. So I explored 6A. Then I explored 6. So let's head down to 7. When I enter 7, I get an 8-sided die for entering a new area, which is nice. The Victory Memorial. A statue of a heroic ambulatory fish knight stands atop the bell of a jellyfish. A fountain from the top gushes water in contrast to the mostly drained temple. The knight at the top of the memorial statue holds aloft a shining sword of fish scales, the Sword of Scales. The statue is slick with water, and the sword requires some skill or some purchase to extract. The water drains to the well from 3. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot. I completed room 6, room 6A, and room 7. I guess 6A counts as room 6. So I gain a D10 to complete, and once again, that's going to move this top one into my Overpower. So I gain a D10. I almost forgot, sorry. So back to room 7. My bot has wheels. That's going to be tough. He can transform his shape. Well, maybe he transforms into like a really tall bot so he can snag the sword or scan the sword. Okay. So whenever there's an obstacle or a creature that doesn't have a stat, if there's no number listed, we just use 10 as the default stat for everything. So he's going to transform himself into the right shape and size, and that's going to require over 10 energy. Because if the stat is 10, I need to spend above 10 to do that. So I don't have a 3. I was hoping to spend an 8 and a 3 to get 11. Let's do this. We'll spend this 5, this 4, and this 9. That gives us 11. All right. So we'll spend 11 power. And then we get to scan the Sword of Scales. Let's see what that is. Mark a usage dot and pierce the sword into stone to produce a freshwater spring that will flow as long as the sword remains in place. Usage dots may be restored by keeping the blade submerged in running water for a day. Oh, that's so cool. Wow. Great job, Brian Stauffer. This is a neat adventure. I'll say the sword counts as a powerful item. Oh, that was a terrible roll. 4 out of D20. Alright. Well, anyway. We're in 7. So let's go to room 3 next. We'll head into there. Oh, and I scanned everything in room 7. Actually, I didn't realize there was an encounter table here. Let's roll an encounter. what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll a random d6 and then immediately delete it. So I got a 1. We're just going to get rid of that. 1 is a guardian. So I'll say a guardian wanders into this room. Encounters, I don't know what the rules are for Mouse Ritter, but I'm just going to kind of wing it to make it work for Overpowered. So a guardian, if we go look at those stats, we'll do the 6 HP again. It's that seaweed thing, so we'll freeze this one too. So I need to spend 7 or more. We're just going to spend this 8 right here. So I'll spend the 8. I freeze the guardian. I get a d6 for scanning that frozen guardian. And then I get a d10 for completing everything in this room. I grabbed the sword and I froze the guardian. So that's complete. Right. Move into room 3. And I gain a d8 for entering room 3, which is new. Gaining a little more overpower. 10 is okay. Garden. A large glowing salt crystal floats in the center of a room filled with faux water. Algae clings to every surface and seaweed gently sways. In the center is a pit full of salt water where leaf slug have made their homes. They're fearful and cautious near intruders. A mandatory stone, or a large stone door with aquamarine trim, depicts a heroic ambulatory fish stabbing a trident into the hood of a jellyfish. Around recess fits the mournful hero disc, which we don't have. Okay. I'm going to leave the slugs alone for now. I'm going to leave this room alone for now, and let's go get the hero disc. So let's go into room 5. Room 5 is the shelter. Oh god, I love that. This room's former purpose is lost to the passage of time, now completely filled with a structure built completely of scavenged shells. A hermit crab will not permit anything being taken, but is willing to trade for pips or shells. Has trash from the pond to offer for trade, including a fish hook, coil of fishing line, some leaf slug eggs. Any attempts to take a shell or tool will result in the crab placing a single claw on the object. He will attack if there are further attempts. Among the shells is a gently glowing disc depicting a mournful fish holding a trident. The crab is fond of it and will only trade it for the shellmet or hero's shell plate. Ooh, okay. So, one of the themes of Overpowered is that we're not robbing these tombs, we're not killing these creatures, we just disable them and scan them and move on. So the idea is that your bot could go through an entire adventure and sort of leave everything the way that it is. In this case, though, we might need to grab the hero's shell plate. And that was in Aura's tomb. Okay. So my bot doesn't have an inventory, but I'm just going to say that he can use his transform ability to go grab, goes back into the tomb, grabs the hero's shell plate. Maybe his body like shifts into a humanoid shape so that he can quote-unquote wear it as he transforms and carries the shell plate back into room 5. He gives it to the crab, and he receives the mournful hero disc in return. And then he's going to carry the mournful hero disc into room 3. We didn't explore room 4, but I think I'm ready to get this thing moving. So let's get into room 3. We drop the mournful hero disc into the pond, which opens up the door to, what does that say? Opens up the door to 8. Okay. The only other thing in this room is the leaf slug. Let's see. 3 HP, 5 strength, 6 dex, 8 will, 1d4 bite. Prevents its home from draining. Paw-sized, translucent sea slug that eats algae. They have taken up residence in the algae-rich garden inside the temple. I don't think I need to defeat this guy. He doesn't seem hostile. And I don't need the completion bonus for this room either. I'm doing pretty good on score. I've got a good collection of dice, so I don't want to spend any more dice just to get more dice, because I have a bunch of low dice and a bunch of highs, so I don't think it'd be worth it for me to spend like a 10 just to overcome a slug with 3 health. So Let's keep going. We'll transition into room 8. All right. Room 8. Dormu's Prison. I don't know what the FW means. A short, ornate hallway lined with stoic ambulatory fish statues in various states of decay leads to a simple double door. Oh, I gain a D8 for entering the room, of course. Through which is a large curved room lit by the soft glow of a massive jellyfish, Dormu. Each barbed tentacle is secured by chain to the sloped wall, pulled taut and crisscrossing each other, forming a stinging labyrinth. A spike on a glowing pulsing chain is pierced through the base of the powerful jelly's bell. 2 guardians and a guardian colossus swim here. Oh, it's filled with false water. Oh. So, up here, it's a description of faux water. Rooms tagged with FW are full of faux water. Faux water is crystal clear. It feels and acts like water, but is breathable. Faux water does not matter to my bot. He doesn't need to breathe. Maybe it just means he moves a little slower. We'll see. So, the spike drains Dormu's magic and energy, and the guardians defend it. When freed, a grateful Dormu will give the player Dormu's blessings and return to sea through the well, taking the rest of the salt crystal and the leaf slugs with them. Do we want to free Dormu? Dormu is a powerful jellyfish sorcerer that draws their power from a magic-infused salt crystal. Ambulatory fish chase Dormu to a freshwater pond and imprison them. They tried to curse them, no avail. The fish used the crystal to create seaweed guardians. Curse took hold of the next generation, who now viewed the imprisonment as a mistake. They sealed the temple and returned to the ocean. So one generation trapped Dormu, and the next generation thought it was a mistake. I say we free the jellyfish. I like jellyfish. And fish people do not have the same appeal. So we're going to play this adventure out to free the jellyfish as our goal. Alright? So let's tackle everything in this room. We entered the new room, got a D8 for entering it. 2 guardians, a guardian colossus swim here. So let's look. The guardians we know have 6 HP. We can take care of both of those. We'll spend the 8 to take care of the first guardian, and 7 to take care of the second guardian. The guardian colossus has less HP, much better stats, and it attacks with 1d10 damage. A hulking, formidable mass of seaweed, a giant guardian wielding a large axe. That's cool. I kind of want to make this climactic, so let's say that my bot is going to use their small frame to avoid the swings of the axe, which is going to use their stat of 16 strength. So we're going to spend 17 power to overcome the strength, and my bot is going to dart around the room, freeing all of Dormu's individual tentacles to try and free it. All right? Because we don't have to defeat the Guardian Colossus. We just have to make sure it's not a threat. So I need to spend at least 16 power. 13 seems obvious, and there you go, 17. Okay. Spend that, and then that takes care of all the threats in the room. All right. So now let's scan everything in the room. So the 2 guardians count as weak creatures. The Guardian Colossus, I'll say, counts as a strong creature, which pumped up the dice, gave me a little more overpower. And then I'm going to say Dormu counts as a strong creature. Why not? Here we go. We break all the spikes. Since breaking the spikes doesn't have a difficulty check or doesn't have HP or anything, we're just going to use 10 as the general number for anything like that. So we'll spend this 5 and this 6 here. Have enough power to break all the spikes. I like the idea that we freeze the metal spikes and then we shatter them by ramming into them with our transformable frame, turn into like a large ball and ram into it. So that's how we're going to break all the spikes, and we're going to free Dormu. He's going to give us Dormu's blessing. which is that an item that I can scan? Dormu's Blessing, a chunk of Dormu's Salt Crystal. Yep, that counts as a powerful object. All right. And I got everything in this area, so I gain a D10 as completed. All right. And with that, we free Dormu to escape back to the pond. And that was a quick playthrough of the Drained Temple of Brackish Basin. What a beautiful little adventure. I would imagine if you played through this with a more traditional tabletop RPG, you'd probably get maybe 2 or 3 hours as the players explore and interact with things. You could play through it again and have slightly more encounters if you wanted to, but Overpowered keeps things kind of light and breezy, and we're going to finish this with an Overpower score of 23. If we had a longer adventure that was more in-depth, we can actually spend Overpower to activate some of these abilities. We can re-roll all of our dice. We can spend 40 Overpower to gain more dice in case we get trapped or stuck and we need more dice. We can also gain 100 Overpower to gain a whole nother row of dice. So I think that is a good overview of how Overpowered works. You can see how we read through and interpreted the adventure to work with the goals of our bot. And Unstable Arcturus had a great time. His ice grenade came in handy. I really liked that. And because he didn't consider art to be a treasure, none of the carvings or sculptures really counted as treasure. To another bot, they might have a higher score. So I think that does it. Thank you all for listening, and go give Overpowered a try. Give it a chance with your favorite adventure.